Hello everybody, today we're going to be doing De Primo Principio, Chapter 4, Conclusions 5 through 8 by Blessed John Duns Scotus. Conclusion 5. The first cause causes all things that it causes contingently. Everything it wills other than itself is not necessary. This is from Conclusion 4 of Argument 3. You can find that in the last video. The first cause could exist in isolation. Nothing is willed of necessity that isn't necessary for the existence of an object. Therefore, nothing other than the first cause is willed of necessity. What about objections here? Well, Scotus actually does raise 4 objections, but because he neglects to answer them and instead points people to a section of his ordinatio on the subject of God's knowledge of future contingents, I won't be enumerating the objections here because the answers are not present in the text. Conclusion 6, Part 1. The first nature's love for itself is identical to that nature. The absolutely final cause is uncausable from Chapter 2, Conclusion 2, and causes the absolutely first efficient cause by its love of the final cause. Because this causality is incapable of being caused, it is necessary, Chapter 3, Conclusion 5. Therefore, that love is as necessary as the first efficient and first final cause. But all necessary things are identical to the first efficient cause, Chapter 3, Conclusion 6. Therefore, the love of the first efficient cause for itself is identical with that cause. Conclusion 6, Part 2. If the first love is something other than the first nature, it can be caused, Chapter 3, Conclusion 19. Therefore, it can be produced, Chapter 2, Conclusion 5, by some per se cause, Chapter 4, Conclusion 4. But consequently, it would be produced out of love for some other end. But then, some further end would have to be loved before the final end could be loved. But there are no further final ends because the final end has to be, the final end. Therefore, the first love is identical with the first nature. Conclusion 6, Part 3, Corollaries. These are truths that you will know in concert because of this Conclusion 6. The will is identical to the first nature, for love is had through the will. Love is necessary, so the will is necessary, and hence identical with the first nature. Self-knowledge is identical with the first nature, for nothing is loved if it is not known. 3. The intellect is identical to the first nature, for the knowledge is necessary for the functioning of the will to love. And then Corollary 4. Whatever else is required for the self-love of the first cause is necessary, and is hence identical with the first cause. Conclusion 7, Part 1. No knowledge can be an accident in the first nature. Whatever is possible of necessity. The first nature can cause only what it can know. Therefore, the first nature necessarily knows all things that it could cause. Everything necessary is identical to the first nature, so the first cause's knowledge. So the first cause's knowledge of what it could cause is identical to its nature. Part 2. If the first being's knowledge of what it could cause was an accident, then it would be causable in some way. But the first being is not causable in any way, therefore the first being does not have knowledge as an accident. The first being has knowledge of itself of necessity, but therefore it knows all the things that it contains eminently of necessity. That is to say that it knows all the things that it could possibly cause of necessity. But all that is necessary is identical with the first being, and it knows all of the things that could produce eminently of necessity. Therefore, the knowledge of all things that is possible is identical to the first being. And then finally, Conclusion 8. The intellect of the first being knows all other things with a knowledge that is distinct, actual, necessary, eternal, and prior to what it knows. Everything possible is necessarily known by the first being, but everything the first being knows is identical with it. Therefore, the first being's knowledge is of everything possible is identical with it. The existence of those things caused by the first being can only be caused by such knowledge, so the knowledge must be prior to them, because all knowledge, or all causality, is prior to the thing caused.